Open up today with a piece by Alexander Scriabin. This will be one of his very famous preludes. Enjoy.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Congregation of Mendon and Uxbridge. I'm so glad that each of you is here today viewing this service in whichever way you're doing it. Welcome. Opening words by William F. Schultz. Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power, and let its vision change your heart. We will now have the chalice lighting. We are a church of open minds. We are a church of loving hearts. We are a church of helping hands. Maybe one of you could come up and light the chalice. Thank you. I appreciate that. While we move forward with the service. Thank you, Peter. And we will continue with the service, whether or not the chalice actually lights, because we'll light it in our hearts. So either way. And let's join together in saying the affirmation of this church. It'll be in the chat on the YouTube live stream. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Typically in a service here, we would have candles of joy and concern at this time. However, in this virtual format, we will have those at the end of the service. All of you viewing are welcome to send in joys and concerns on the live stream chat or on the contact form on the church website. And I will light candles for those joys and concerns toward the end of the service. We will now have a hymn, and I chose this hymn especially for today. It's called, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. And I'd like to share words of one stanza of it with you, the third stanza by Eugene Navius. Come, thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways, lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above. Thank you, Matt. Today's story is called The Long Spoons. It can be found in various religious traditions, the source is unknown. A woman was once taken on a tour of hell and heaven, and she was very surprised by what she saw. First, she visited hell. All of hell's inhabitants sat at long tables in a dining room with spoons in their hands. The most wonderful feast was set out before them. Everything looked and smelled so delicious. However, all of the diners' arms were tied to slats of wood that kept their arms extended. They couldn't bend their elbows. In this position, the poor souls were unable to get the spoons to their mouths. They could not even take one bite. Hell was filled with very hungry souls, tortured by the fact that they were so close to the most amazing food, and yet they could not eat it. Then the woman visited heaven, and she found the same scenario. Like hell, heaven was also filled with people sitting at long tables with their arms tied to slats of wood. They also could not reach their hands to their mouths to eat the delicious feast. However, there was a profound difference. No one was hungry in heaven. Why was that? Because the residents of heaven were not trying to feed themselves, but instead, each person was feeding the person who was sitting across the table from them. Thus, they were all greatly enjoying the delicious, wonderful feast together. It's now time in this service where it is the offering, and we invite you to give. There's a PayPal link posted in the live stream chat, and we thank you all for your generous gifts of time, of talent, of treasure. And I have a few words that I brought for today's offering, excuse me. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. And we will have the offertory. From you I receive, to you I give during this time.
Oh, no number.
us now enter a time of meditation together. Let us quiet our hearts, have a brief moment of silence, and then listen to the sounds of my singing bowl as we settle into a place of peace and quiet, and we enjoy the sound of the singing bowl together. After that, we will continue in the spirit of meditation by hearing Spirit of Life. Let's breathe together. Amen and blessed be. Today's sermon is called With Hands and Hearts. Most things that have been built in this world have been built with hands. Human creativity is often expressed through our hands. Hands have been used to show great mercy and love, and they have also been used for harm. In this service, we will reflect together on the power and world-changing ability of loving hands. If you were paying attention to the words in the chalice lighting earlier, you heard a chalice lighting that is often taught to children in UU religious education programs. We are a church of open minds. We are a church of loving hearts. We are a church of helping hands. It seems to me that this chalice lighting pretty much sums up the affirmation of this church that starts with, "Love is the spirit of this church." We also pledge to seek the truth in love, which sounds a lot like open minds to me, and to help one another, like by helping with our loving hands. Here is a true story about how people helped with their hearts and minds that happened in the next town over about 170 years ago. The Burglar in Hopedale was a memory shared by Susan Thwing Whitney in Hopedale Reminiscences, compiled by Lynn Hughes. As I said, true story, happened just down the hill. As you may know, Reverend Aidan Ballou, minister of this church in the 1830s, believed in Christian non-resistance. Non-resistance meant never using violence or even force on other people, not even to defend themselves. We might call this pacifism today, but they called it non-resistance. And a lot of people thought this was too extreme, especially not even for self-defense. But Aidan really believed that's what Jesus taught, and he wanted to follow the life and example of Jesus. So after he left being minister of this congregation, he moved down the road with a group of like-minded people and started the Hopedale community that was committed to non-resistance, abolition, and other human rights. Aidan and his wife Lucy and others in Hopedale opened their homes to people who needed a meal or a place to stay. Strangers were often directed to William and Elmira Humphrey's house for food and lodging, and they lived very close to where the Bancroft Library in Hopedale is now. Anyhow, one night in the Humphrey family home, their young daughter Lizzie heard some noises, and she wasn't sure what she was hearing, and she went to go look, and she discovered a man hiding under their sofa. Next to the man was a bag he had filled with some of their dining room silver. She quickly called her parents, and after conferring with each other, they then called some of the men who lived nearby, including Aidan Ballou. The people had to figure out what to do in this situation, as they were committed to not using any violence or force, and they didn't know if the man had a weapon. There was no policeman to call, no jail, and they had to quickly come up with a plan. And how could they even remove him from under the couch when they were committed to not using any force whatsoever? So they felt it would be wrong to try to drag the man out from under the couch. And it was a quandary for them. So they conferred and decided to station some men at the doors of the house in case the burglar tried to escape. Others used their hands and arms to lift the sofa up and away from the burglar. The poor man was uncovered from his hiding place. It turned out that he was a man that the Humphrey family had recently fed and helped. The poor man explained that he had no job and no home. He thought that if he was caught stealing, he would be thrown in some kind of jail and at least given food to eat. He was desperate. Aidan Ballou and the Humphreys realized the man needed more help. So the Humphrey family, the family that he just attempted to steal from, decided to take care of the man for a time. And after that, they found him another place to live. Later, when someone asked Mrs. Humphrey if she didn't feel very provoked with that man for returning all their kindness in that way, the kind-hearted woman, who had seen what a sad shape the man was in, said, "Why, no, I felt as if I wanted to take him right in my arms." That community committed their hands to doing the love that was in their hearts. How can we do the same? I spoke with an enthusiastic new member this week, and she told me that she feels called to build community. I was so happy to hear that. What is community? What is a chosen community? It is a group of people who have something in common, who wish each other well, and who also work together for common goals. Right now, as we have to maintain more physical distance, community actually becomes even more important. Former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy said, "One thing that COVID-19 is highlighting for so many people experiencing physical distancing is not only how important relationships with family and friends are, but also how meaningful our interactions with our neighbors, relatives, and strangers in our communities are." We need community. And studies have shown that social interactions provide positive benefits to both health and longevity. We need community. In both of the areas of community, both in supporting each other and in working for common goals, they both need our attention right now. How can we do better at showing support for one another? And what are the next steps we want to take in our common goals of promoting the worth and dignity of all people and taking better care of our planet? I would love to hear your ideas. In supporting one another, I challenge everyone listening to this sermon to do one helpful thing with your hands this week beyond what you already do. And some of you do a lot, I know. If you are a member or friend of this congregation, I invite and challenge you to reach out to one other parishioner or friend that could use a call or a note in the mail or maybe even some food on their doorstep this week. One extra kind thing that you can do with your heart and your hands. I know some of you are very busy people. However, I think almost all of us can find 10 minutes to write a note or make a call. You could even send a postcard in 5 minutes or less. You can do it. We can do it. If everyone connected to this church accepts this invitation, we will be well on our way to building a more caring community. Like the people with the long spoons in heaven, let's take care of each other. And let's make sure we get fed, too. If you need a pastoral visit or a call from me, or if you need something that someone here may be able to help with, please let me know. Additionally, I would like to facilitate some pen pal matches with some folks in the congregation, maybe some of the elders who are mostly homebound, with some other people in the congregation. A pen pal this winter might go a long way in brightening someone's life. Please let me know if you're interested. Let's build community together. I'd like to conclude this sermon with a meditation on hands by Christine C. Robinson that I have adapted. Look at your hands. Take a good look at your hands. You use them all the time, but how much do you actually stop and look at them? They may have been through a lot, these hands. They may have been through a lot. These hands have strengths. Maybe they have scars. They have beauty. Whatever they look like, they have beauty. I invite you to remember that it is your hands that do the work of love in this world. These hands may hold another's hands. They may cook meals, wash dishes, sweep floors, clean bathrooms. These hands may mow lawns, rake leaves, change lights, or repair walls. Or we may find these hands writing notes, drawing pictures, typing emails, posting notices on church websites, filming services, delivering food, or signing checks. Additionally, these hands may teach, may create art, may bathe children, may nurse the ill. And they may work in gardens or work with tools and computers and machines. So many things we do with our hands. Also, these hands may clasp in sending prayer or good energies. They may open in release. They may grasp in solidarity. They may clench in righteous anger. They may comfort those who mourn. These hands, your hands, my hands, all of our hands do the work of love in our world. In gratitude for hands, amen, and blessed be. Let's start by apples, okay? What? David, is it Justin or Justice? Oh, Jackie. Oh, she died. Who's it? Peter? This is Peter. Who's that? It's Marsha. Marsha. Thank you. It is now time in the service where we will light the candles of joy and concern. Today, we will start with the concerns. From Peter, Jackie Nelson, a longtime member, died at age 80, just very, very recently. This is to remember Jackie. I actually tried to call her a couple times in the last week and didn't reach her, and I'm so sorry to hear this. Thinking of Jackie and her love for this church, and we think of her family, that they may have comfort and strength at this time. Also, Brienne, age 6, granddaughter, fell in a playground and broke her left arm. We think of Brienne. Hope she heals quickly. We'll move into the joys now. But along the same vein, a candle of joy from Marcia, that her knee is healed and she can hike with her friend again. Yay. Marcia has told me how much she enjoys hiking, so I'm very glad to hear that for her. From David, a candle of respect and admiration for those going through life passages with dignity and acceptance. Or maybe that was Peter? Was that Peter? Okay. Well, we can all share in that together. And the granddaughter candle was also from David. A candle of joy for Bear's 15th birthday from Hal. Happy birthday, Bear. I hope you have a lot of fun gaming today on your birthday, since you told me that's one of the things that you love. And from Bill Vieira, a candle of gratitude for lessons taught by apples. Bill, do I hear a sermon coming up about this? Lessons taught by apples. And I have a few other candles. I mentioned a few weeks ago that I visited a woman named Allison who lived in Hopedale, just not connected to this community, just someone who called from the wider community, that she was in hospice. And I have heard that she has passed. And so thinking of Allison and her family. Also, I want to remember another woman who recently passed. I officiated a funeral in Franklin yesterday for another community, wider community person named Judy, and they had a graveside service in Franklin yesterday. And the family generously gave me one of the bouquets of flowers, so I brought the flowers today to share with all of you. So this is for Judy, and wishing her family comfort and strength in their time of their loss. I'm aware that it's around Veterans Day, and so I would like to light this candle for all the veterans in our community, those that we know of, those that are present, those that are viewing, those in our families that are not viewing. But for all the veterans, we thank you for your service, and I'd like to include those who served in the Peace Corps as well. Thank you, veterans. And I will light the final candle for those things that remain unspoken in our hearts and minds. Let us hold these things in our hearts in the rest of the service and as we go through our days. I think joys and concerns are kind of like the focal point of our service, because that's when we share things in community and we can lift each other up in our hearts and maybe reach out to some of the people that share joys and concerns. Amen. I have two announcements today. The Uxbridge Society is meeting today after the service at 11:30, and that will be both in person in Goss Hall and virtually. So a link has been sent out for those who want to attend virtually, and please join us today at 11:30 for the Uxbridge Society. Additionally, the congregation is going to have a wreath sale on December 5th, a wreath sale right here at the church. And Sonia, Chris, and I are working on that. We hope it'll raise some much needed funds for the church, and also we'll have a good time. So if you're interested in helping with that, please contact any of us. You can contact me, email me, or use the church contact form on the website, or you can let Chris or Sonia know as well. So December 5th, hold the date. And even if you're not able to help with the sale, maybe you want to come by and say hello and buy a wreath. And we're working on a pre-ordering form too, so that people can pre-order ahead. I'll now extinguish the chalice. Words by Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we're together again. We'll now have the benediction and then our new tradition of online saying the Serenity Prayer together. This has been a long time tradition for this church, and we are just now incorporating it into the online services. So the benediction and the Serenity Prayer and the postlude. I'm so glad, again, you can all join us today. Benediction. Go out into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Rejoice in beauty. Honor all beings. Live in love. And now we'll say the Serenity Prayer. I believe there'll be a post on that in the live stream, so you can join with us wherever you are. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
I'd like to close off today with a requested song. It's one of my favorites, actually. A good choice. This is Lean on Me by Bill Withers, and I'd like to share with you some of the lyrics from the first opening verse. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me. When you're not strong, I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I need somebody to lean on. Thanks.